Queensland families are under more pressure than ever, and the latest figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics show just why. On the big four issues that a state government can control, Queensland has had the greatest rise in the last financial year. And in a moment, David Janetzki, as Shadow Treasurer, will explain what that means and how big a deal it is. But make no mistake, on the big four bills Queensland families are paying, Queensland is ground zero in the cost of living crisis. It is impacting families like never before. Rent, electricity, health costs, insurance, the things a state government can have an impact on are spiralling out of control in Queensland. And as I have consistently said, when I stand up and point at the problems, I will always point to solutions. And on these four big issues, they lie at the feet of the state government. And today, the government can't blame others. They can't say that this is a problem across the board. The increase in these four key issues, the difference between Queensland and the other states, shows what is happening here is broken and the solutions must be adopted. In Queensland, rent has increased by 8.9% last financial year, the biggest jump in the country. We continually talk about increasing supply, infrastructure partnerships to allow young people to own a home, for people to be able to afford to rent, to arrest the decline in community housing. We're the only state that's gone backwards, to get serious about not just announcing social housing projects, but using the Housing Investment Fund to deliver more stock. And I repeat our commitment. Every cent of the Housing Infrastructure Fund will be used to develop new product to increase supply and put downward pressure on rents. Electricity. Queenslanders have suffered a 25.4% increase in their electricity prices. The government continues to point the finger and blame everyone else but themselves. Our two major power plants have been offline for 2 years. Every respected, credible authority points to that as the single biggest reason why Queensland electricity has jumped by more than anywhere else. So today I affirm a maintenance guarantee. We will implement a maintenance guarantee to keep the lights on in Queensland and make sure that electricity is affordable, reliable and sustainable. In healthcare, Queensland has had a 6.7% increase, the largest in the nation. When your health system is under immense pressure, that puts pressure on Queensland families and it puts pressure on their wallets. Every time the public system that has been so poorly under-resourced and poorly managed by this government, every time that public health system falters, a Queenslander has to reach into their wallet to ensure their family gets health care. And that is putting pressure on the bottom line. So today I commit to better resources, better triaging, sharing data in real time and putting doctors and nurses back in charge. Within 100 days of the election, Queenslanders will be able to see what is happening in their hospitals. That will drive change and ensure that these increases do not continue to dwarf the rest of the nation. And finally, in insurance, where Queenslanders have had a 17.1% increase, the highest in the nation. You want to know why? Well, poor law and order, poor planning, less police, all of those things impact a family's safety. And make no mistake, the spiralling insurance costs for Queenslanders lie at the feet of a state government that has watered down laws, has less police on the beat and refused to listen to our solutions. Consequences for actions, getting serious about unshackling the judiciary and removing detention as a last resort, and gold standard early intervention. Queensland is ground zero for the cost of living crisis. There are solutions on the table, and these numbers show that the pain Queenslanders are experiencing on the big four issues that matter most are worse in Queensland than anywhere else in the country. Over to you, David.
Thank you, DC. David Janetzki, Shadow Treasurer, Shadow Minister for Investment and Trade. Times are tough and they are toughest in Queensland. These numbers yesterday that were released by the ABS, these inflation numbers, tell the story. They tell a story of what service delivery failures mean for the hip pockets of Queenslanders. Now, DC's gone through some of those numbers, but I want to contrast them to the national numbers as well. So in telling the story, these numbers reveal the costs of rent gone up 8.9% in Queensland alone. This is the biggest jump in the country, which rose by 6.7%. Power prices for this last financial year ending 30 June went up 25%. Nationwide, that was 13.4%. So power prices have gone up nearly double in Queensland compared to the rest of the country. Health costs up 6.7%, again, the largest jump in the country. Insurance costs up 17.1%, again, the largest jump for the last year in the country. These are the big four bills that matter most around the kitchen table. And these four big bills in rent, power, health and insurance are those that are raising most concerns with the Queenslanders I talk to. So I've just spent most of the last month on the road going around Queensland talking to households, to businesses. And what they are talking about is the cost of living crisis here in Queensland. It's on their minds whether they're a household or a business. And it's the Palaszczuk Labor government service delivery failures that are causing much of these increases in these bills. The failure to properly maintain power plants has resulted in the increase in power bills. The inability to release enough land and to meddle with the taxation system is driving up rents and driving out investment. The failure to maintain good community safety is driving up insurance premiums. And of course, in healthcare, we know that the failure to heal the health crisis and also driving up the cost to see a doctor through their patient's tax is causing people great concern as well. Now, we're hearing all kinds of excuses from the Labor government, and today I'm sure will be no different when they come to respond to these numbers, which are for the full year ended 30 June, numbers less than 24 hours old. But the truth is, excuses don't pay the bills. Queenslanders are looking for service delivery reform, for improvements to service delivery to put downward pressure on their cost of living. Because Queenslanders are struggling. No matter where I go, that is what they are talking about. The Palaszczuk government service delivery failures is making the cost of living crisis worse, and that is where their responsibility is to pick up their act to make sure that service delivery reform is delivered, to put that downward pressure on cost of living. DC?
Over to you. Thanks, David.
What do you mean by this maintenance guarantee? Can you give us more details about what that is?
It's about making sure that the government upholds its end of the bargain, and that means that the power plants we own will be working. And when I see the government miss every single deadline it has set itself over the course of the last 12 months to turn these back on, I know that it's completely and utterly lost control of ministerial oversight. And it happens across every portfolio. Just yesterday, we were talking about a failure in the speed zones. Now, for a minister to say that he was briefed last week, does it really take 6 months before a minister asks the question about what they oversee and what they have announced? It's the same thing with the power plants. They have made themselves deadlines time and time again and continue to miss them. And every time that happens, a Queenslander gets a power bill that is higher than what it should be. So I guarantee that those plants will be maintained. They won't be used as a cash cow for the government. They will be used to help drive downward pressure on electricity prices for Queenslanders. And a minister will be held responsible to keep those plants operating. G'day.
Can I just ask about the workplace safety incident earlier this week?
Yeah.
The union has called for Mark Bailey to step down. Do you call for a similar resignation?
Look, I'm just mindful that this is still very early on in the investigation, and emotions obviously are very, very quite rightly raw. And I just want to start by saying, when you see incidents like this, it hits home about how important safety on the work site is. Everyone deserves to go to work, make a living, and come home in one piece. And investigators should be very, very thorough in this. Make no mistake about it. I'll make the point to every single person and group that has an interest in this, we will be raising these issues and we will be listening to you and we will be taking up the fight because no one deserves to suffer like that in the workplace. Colleagues don't deserve to see that unfold. First responders shouldn't be put in that position. So I say to everyone with an interest in this, we'll be listening and we will be asking questions and making sure that we get to the bottom of this because safety issues have been raised and people deserve to be listened to. And above all, people deserve to go to work, be safe and come home in one piece. And that hasn't happened.
There's been some reports about a backlog of scans, over 50,000 scans at the Gold Coast Hospital.
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
Well, it's alarming. And it's the latest in the Queensland health crisis. And every Queenslander deserves to have a world-class health system. And to know that so many thousands of people are falling through the cracks because of the government's inability to plan and deliver frontline services is deeply troubling. And I'm sorry, but it is not acceptable to hear the same excuses time and time again. It means nothing to a Queenslander who is waiting too long for treatment that there are other places under pressure. The health system is the responsibility of the state government. And today we have proof that those pressures are higher in Queensland than anywhere else. So excuses aren't going to get someone the treatment they deserve. And when governments fail in frontline service delivery, it costs Queenslanders money, but it also costs them their health. And that's worth more than anything. And to know that so many thousands of Queenslanders are being let down because of a system that hasn't been poorly planned and poorly resourced is deeply troubling. And I assure you there is a better way. And it involves respecting and valuing the staff that you've got, attracting the best and brightest, ensuring that doctors and nurses feel valued and respected and can be in charge of the decision making, properly resourcing them. If you do that, Queensland Health will again become an employer of choice. And we commit to doing that. And I commit to holding ministers accountable to do that. It is not acceptable to blame everyone else. The state government is responsible for the health system. And today we have further proof that the Queensland health crisis is deeper here than anywhere else in the nation. And that has impacts on people every day, financially, but more importantly, to their health. And that's worth fighting for. Thanks all.